Estamos aquí con George Christie, nuestro invitado de esta semana para Good People, para el programa de Feel Good TV. George nació en Ventura, California, en 1947 y desde muy joven ha caminado por el lado salvaje de la vida. Es hijo único de una pareja de inmigrantes griegos y un día cuando caminaba hacia la playa para hacer surf, como tantos adolescentes de la costa oeste, se encontró con un amigo que iba en una Harley Davidson y su vida cambió. Es una historia que merece ser escuchada, una historia muy bonita. Hello George, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm fine, so happy to have you here with
I'm
us.
happy to be here.
Okay, George, I've been telling our public that you were born in California and how you started with the first time you saw a Harley Davidson. And so I would like you to explain us how it changed your life to become a member of one of the most well-known motorcycle organization, Hell Angels, was head by Sonny Barger. And what I've read about this is that he was like a father for the members of the organization. They felt this sense of belonging to a group. That's what made you enter this band?
Well, certainly Sonny's a father figure to a lot of the members. He didn't actually start the club. The club started 10 years earlier in San Bernardino, California, and as the legend goes, it was from returning veterans from World War II. They had been in the European theater and the Pacific theater, and they had come back probably suffering from undiagnosed PTSD, stress of the war and whatnot, and they came back to the United States, didn't really fit in, missed the camaraderie that they had developed with their fellow servicemen, and started these little motorcycle clubs in Southern California. So the birth of the outlaw motorcycle culture was in Southern California, out near San Bernardino.
Okay, and what was the reason to become a member of
Well, me personally, I was with my father. I was probably 9, 10 years old, and I saw a outlaw type motorcyclist pull up to a stop sign, and he really grabbed a hold of me. I was intrigued by the mystique of how he looked and also how he affected the people around him. He really didn't have an interest in the people around him, but everybody seemed to have an interest in him. Mm-hmm. And the light changed and he left, and he was gone, but the people were still talking about him. Yeah. And that interested me as a child. I thought that was a lot of power. And, he also looked pretty cool.
When Sonny Burgess became very famous after that, no? Years after. And it would have something to do with the Vietnam uprisings, which make it easier for him to become well known. And after that, Hollywood takes notice of him, and he starts making movies, and that's one of the reasons why you start to see a way of changing your life, even if it's not at that moment, that inspired you after that?
Well, I think that during the Vietnam War, the United States was conflicted. Half of the country was for the war, the other half was against the war. And Sonny took this position on the side of the people that supported the war, and he offered Lyndon Johnson, who was the president at the time, the opportunity to take a group of Hell's Angels and train them and send them to Vietnam. And that got a lot of notoriety. And then from that situation, Roger Corman, who is a personal friend of mine, made a lot of B movies and made a lot of the biker movies in the 60s. He took an interest and started making movies, and the popularity of the culture and the lifestyle really grew. I became friends with Nancy Sinatra. She was in the Wild Angels, and Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper, Bruce Dern. These are famous actors in the United States that really got their start from these outlaw motorcycle movies. They were kind of like B cult movies, but they became very popular and inspired a lot of young people in the United States and other places as well. You know?
Yeah, I remember Easy Rider, no?
Sure.
It's a
Yeah.
good movie.
It was a great movie.
Yeah. Did you feel that spirit?
I did feel that spirit, and I still feel that spirit.
Yeah.
And I think that, we're over here working on our project, and I'm hoping that it will instill the same spirit in a different generation, you know. We're going to deal with a lot of aspects that are ignored. Returning veterans come home from wars, and whether it be in America, England, Spain, wherever they happen to participate in these conflicts, it affects them emotionally and psychologically. They're scarred in a sense. And these are some of the issues that we'll be addressing in Mark the Unforgiven. They get involved and engaged in these conflicts, and they come home, and sometimes the citizens, not intentionally, but unintentionally, in their comfort, because of what they did for the common people, forget that sometimes these people have issues, and it needs to be dealt with. You know, it's not ignored. You know,
when I'm telling all these old stories because we would like to know about your life, your past. That's why we will get later to your actual life.
Okay.
It's much more interested in a way, and it's a beautiful, very beautiful story. How you can live all the experience and then become a writer. But we will tell about this a little bit later, because I want to ask you, how was the feeling? How was the situation? So difficult. You have to be very smart person, because when Sonny goes to jail, you become a very important person in the organization, but you have a very different leadership style. More conciliatory. How do you remember the transition? How could you manage to change the situation or try to change it?
I felt that there was a lot of conflicts with people who had the same interests as we did. Motorcycles, brotherhood, camaraderie. And I had a vision that it would be a lot smarter for us to get along rather than engage in conflict. And so I went on what you might say a peace mission, and not only the United States, but here in Europe as well. I've been to Scandinavia several times, Amsterdam, and professing my beliefs and what I thought would be more beneficial to the culture at large, whether it be just specifically one club, but all the clubs.
So it's very interesting. You are an angel with a mission of peace.
Well, it is somewhat confusing for some people, but I had a vision and I had a mission and I followed it, and I felt I was pretty successful, at times. Certainly there was setbacks, just like in any culture. If you look at society itself, they make gains and then they make losses and then they regain the ground that they lost. And that's kind of what I did, from the mid 80s till, the mid 2000s. I worked really hard to get the clubs to interact peacefully and to communicate. And I feel I was pretty successful.
It's a very good idea, because you did it from there, not from outside. People trying to help people from when they don't know them. They don't know the problems, the situation, but you knew it.
Right.
That's why you work from the inside of
I had experienced it, so I felt that having had that experience, that I would be the perfect person to have a resolution for it.
It's a funny story I've read on the internet. I want to ask.
Well, the internet, you can't believe everything you read.
But now I have you here, so it's a perfect
now you're
time
going
to
to ask
check
me.
if it is right or wrong.
Okay.
George, is it true that in 1984 you carried the Olympic torch as part of the Los Angeles Olympics?
I did carry the torch. I did, and. We were very proud as an organization, and I didn't just carry it for the Hells Angels. I carried it for all the outlaw bike culture.
It was quite
an experience, and what we were really doing is we were answering to allegations that there were some people in law enforcement that said we were going to disrupt the Olympics, and we wanted the American public to know that we wouldn't. And, not only the American public, but, all these countries that participated in the Olympics, we wanted them to know that we supported the Olympics, that we weren't un-American and we weren't anti-Olympics. We supported it, and we showed it by participating in it.
So internet was right?
The internet was right for once.
For once. It's very nice anecdote. Yeah. Okay. So after all, you decide to leave the club?
I did.
In 2011?
Yes.
What was the reason?
I felt that we had reached a point in time when we had to make some drastic changes, and the things that I wanted to do conflicted with the things Sonny wanted to do. And after a couple of years, I felt that the best thing for the club and for Sonny and I personally was for me to work outside the Hells Angels with my books. I had a TV show on the History Channel, and it was just a mission I went on. And some of the guys weren't happy about it, and some of the guys supported me.
Yeah. So this is when you take this decision to start. I love what you write in your Instagram profile that you are outlaw by decision,
right,
and a writer by chance.
Yes, correct.
I love this.
Good. Yeah, well, it's actually the truth. I had no idea that I would ever be writing the books I've written. I never had any thought that I would host a television show. I hosted the Outlaw Chronicles, a 6-part television show, and I've been on other shows as well.
So yes, this Outlaw show, a one-man show, what it was after when you left the club. Yes. What is this about?
Well,
one-man show in Las Vegas.
I did I wrote my book, Exile on Front Street, and then I did my TV show, Outlaw Chronicles, about the same time. And that dealt mostly with the Hells Angels and my experiences with the Hells Angels. But I felt that there was a lot of people, I was getting a lot of mail. I have a website, and people were writing me. And they were asking me about personal things in my life. And so I started working with this guy. I'd never written a play before, and we wrote a stage play. And it's a 2-hour play. It's a one-man show. I perform the whole show myself. And
so you were not nervous today?
No, I'm not nervous. Well, maybe a little. So I learned a lot of things about myself writing the one-man show. I learned about the attraction that pulled me into that lifestyle from that day on the street with my father. But I also learned some other things. And I discovered when I was a child that I was poor. Our family was poor. We were, they were immigrants from Greece.
Very hard life.
And it was difficult to make ends meet. My father was very independent. He walked off more jobs than he ever held. And it all came to a head one afternoon. There was a new burger place called Bob's Big Boy. And it was like McDonald's, but before McDonald's, around the same time as McDonald's, but very popular. And I wanted a burger, and I was bugging my mom and my dad. I want the burger, I want the burger. And they were talking in Greek, and I understood some Greek, but I didn't speak it fluently at that time. So they pulled in to the burger place, Bob's Big Boy, and my father did something that he'd never done before. My mom and him got out of the car, and they took the seats out of the car, and they put them on the ground. And they started digging through the dust balls and the dirt underneath the seats, looking for pennies and dimes. And people started laughing. And I had this epiphany that we were poor. And that was the day I realized that I came from a poor family. We didn't have money. And in order to get that hamburger, my dad and mom had to humble themselves by taking that seat out of the car and digging through the dirt in the car for pennies and dimes and nickels. And we found them, and I got a burger that day. But,
it's so hard to say no to your...
absolutely.
Still, I think it's more...
It's interesting. Like I said, I came from a poor family, but in a sense, I was spoiled. There's other ways to spoil. You don't have to spoil children with money. No. You can spoil them other ways. And, my mom and dad poured so much love into me that sometimes I think it worked at a disadvantage for me, because when you are very sensitive and you're protected, and then you walk out into the real world, it can be very
shock.
Yeah, that's a good word. It's a shock.
Are they still alive?
Yeah.
Your parents?
My mom and dad are both gone. My grandparents are gone, and I even lost one of my sons, little George. So I'm here in Spain. This is my new home, Malaga, and I'm celebrating 2 years this month. I've been here 2 years.
2 years in Malaga. Congratulations.
October. Thank you. So this is my new home. Spain's my new home. I feel like I did when I was a young man. I'm on an adventure again.
Yeah, you are.
I'm really excited to be here in Spain.
So you have one book. You are getting ready one.
Well, I have 3 books out. One book was made into a TV movie. It's a Christmas story.
Yeah.
I have Mart, which is now Mart the Unforgiven, that we're going to be filming here in Malaga because of the similarities. It looks like Ventura.
Yeah.
I feel so at home, but it's like Ventura 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So
with no guns, no.
No guns. Tempers, but no guns.
Yeah, I know. We have guns. Spanish tempers.
Yeah, and I like it, because you know exactly how they feel. And but I have another book, Exile on Front Street. But those are the 3 books I have published. But I have a book of short stories coming out.
Okay.
My book, Exile on Front Street, is going to be translated into Denmark, into Danish. So it's being released in Denmark.
That's one thing I wanted to ask you. Do you have your books translated into Spanish?
No, and that's what if any producers or publishers are out there,
please.
I want to get my book in Spanish, Exile on Front Street, as well as Mart. So I'm looking for a Spanish publisher.
Okay.
Because I think it would do really well here. I get requests. I get at least 2 or 3 requests a day on social media, on my followers. When's it going to be in Spanish?
Yeah.
When's it going to be in Spanish? Yeah. And I'd like to do that for the people of Spain. I think they would enjoy it.
We'll have a lot of followers.
Yes, I think it would be great in Spanish.
So now you are in Malaga for this reason. You are doing the film, no?
Yes, Mart the Unforgiven.
I don't know if to ask you this. It's very.
You're embarrassed?
Yeah.
Don't be embarrassed. I'm easy to talk to.
Okay. Do you have a motorbike here right now?
No, I don't have a motorcycle here. My motorcycle's back home, but I have a Triumph motorcycle that I'll be riding in the show.
Yeah.
And Triumph motorcycles, they provide me with a motorcycle when I want one.
Okay.
So I do have a motorcycle. It's just not mine.
Well,
but I have access to
it. Different states.
I like it so much that I don't want to give it back.
Okay, George.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good people.
I'm good people?
Yeah, for
Are you sure?
Good TV.
Good TV. This is George Christie for Good People.
For Feel Good TV?
For Feel Good TV.